Hello, Kylie, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I am so excited to be speaking with you today. Do you want to share a bit around how long have you been massaging for? Like, how long have you been in this industry for?
Yeah, so I've been in the industry since 2008 officially. So I started training in 2006, but set up my business in September of 2008. So I've been a remedial massage therapist since then, and more recently I retrained as a clinical nutritionist as well. So I finished off my degree in September of 2020 in the midst of the last semester. Was right through COVID, so that was interesting as well.
Oh, look, I'm really excited to hear about your journey into massage and some of the really cool aha moments you've had along the journey. What got you into this style of therapy? Like, what got you into becoming a body worker?
Yeah, so I grew up actually receiving a lot of body work, which is surprising that I didn't go into it sooner as my first career. So I spent 15 years working in 4- and 5-star hotels in the hospitality industry. But I grew up with a nan who was an ex-nurse who was a chiropractic assistant and used to do adjustments on me after Sunday lunch, and used to get the crystal pendulum out and prescribe my vitamins and minerals and my Schussler's tissue salts all via crystal pendulum. So I grew up in this environment. So, you know, you could say I was meant to end up in natural therapies, but I actually ended up, as I said, going into hospitality. But I actually had an experience of massage during my cancer treatment journey. So back in 2002, when I was 28, I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And the treatment protocol that was given to me at the hospital that I was treated at in the UK actually included 5 sessions with an on-site massage therapist. And to that point, I'd never really had gone into anybody for treatment before. And it was really such a beautiful thing to be including. And this is an NHS hospital. So this is a public system, and they actually funded an on-site massage therapist in their cancer department. So that was huge for me. And I got such benefit from the treatment that when I got through my treatment, and I had been wanting to get out of hospitality, but didn't know what I wanted to do, naturally I was drawn to massage. So that's how I sort of fell into it, I guess. I thought I would study it initially as a naturopath, but actually didn't fancy 3 years of study at that point. So I went the massage route, and I'm a hands-on person. I'm touchy-feely. So it suited me to the ground.
So I think that's amazing to have that beautiful heritage of coming from your grandma and experiencing stuff that, you know, some of us only get into on the other side of treatment and things like that, to be able to go, you know, diagnosis via, what did you call it, pendulum?
Crystal pendulum.
Crystal pendulum, yeah. And I've seen that in action, and it's so like out there in inverted commas, and so freaking cool. It literally is like a crystal ball almost, like what? So when you got into massage, you know, obviously through your own personal journey, what was some of the kind of, what did you think of as success? Like, what were you kind of aiming for in terms of your business that you had a kind of, this is what I want to do as a practitioner?
So when I set up my practice, I remember that I knew I was going to be setting up initially as a solo practitioner, but my vision was to have a large clinic. And from day dot, I set up under a business name. So I originally was used to trade under Hand to Body Wellness, or Hand to Body Massage Therapy, which became Hand to Body Wellness. And because my intention was that it wasn't ever going to be just about me, I was going to take on more therapists and have a big clinic, a big practice, and be, you know, sharing massage love all around the streets of Adelaide. So, and, you know, and I had visions of actually having multiple clinics as well. And so to me, that's what success would have been in my business, was to have multiple multi-modality clinics. So that was my initial vision when I first started out back in 2008.
And how far did you get along that goal?
Well, I did set up a multi-modality clinic, but it was hard work. I managed to find this absolutely beautiful old villa in a suburb here in Adelaide called Wayville. It's a very affluent inner south suburb. And it was on the main road, but it was beautiful and quiet inside, big rooms with high ceilings, ornate detailing, very beautiful. And everybody loved the space. Everybody was like, found it such a caring and nurturing and beautiful space. But it was healing and nurturing for everybody else except for me. It was killing me, this building. And the reason it was killing me was because it was so expensive. So I would spend, just to run the building on its own, so rent, utilities, just the building, not anything else, was $60K a year. And so that's just like without trying. Those are the base expenses. And yeah, I used to rent rooms out, but it wasn't covering the full amount. So I had this beautiful place that everybody loved to come to, but it was just financially killing me and emotionally and mentally killing me too. Like I was just like, became very disillusioned. And I was at a point actually around 2017 when we got to know each other when I joined Massage Champions. I was at a point where I had fallen out of love with massage, and I'd fallen out of love with looking after people. And I've spent my whole career, whether it was hospitality or massage, like providing service to people and loving, being able to do that. And I just didn't find any joy anymore in massaging. It was a chore. And so, yeah, I knew that the building was in part to do with that, and that I needed to actually work out what it was that I needed to do. And I think I was in the process, my rent was coming up for renewal around April after we'd met, and I'd made a decision to downsize with the intention of just consolidating for a bit before and finding a better building that wouldn't cost so much money but still create an amazing space. And then we would expand again. That was, we're going to expand, we're going to take on more therapists. So we downsized, and that was for a couple of years, and we were getting ready to rebuild. I was looking for new premises, and then my experienced massage therapist came to me. She'd been with me for 5 years. She was a great therapist. She had taken on everything on board that I had taught her. I'd actually taught her massage at college because I used to teach massage as well. And I knew her so well. And she came to me and she said, actually, you know what? I've decided to go into business for myself. And what was fascinating was I was not disappointed. I was relieved. I was so relieved. And I was really shocked. I was shocked by that response in me. I was like, why am I relieved that she's leaving me? I mean, I was proud. I was super proud because I was like, yeah, you've been with me for 5 years. You should want to go into business for yourself. You've learned all the stuff. You've learned from my mistakes as well. So, you've learned all this good stuff off of me, of course. And I was excited for her. But the relief, I think, came because there wasn't that pressure now to build. It was an opportunity because I didn't have any staff with me to really sit down and reassess, okay, what is it that I want to do with my business? So it actually provided me with an opportunity that I wasn't expecting as well.
And I think sometimes what I'm loving in that is that this is where I want to go. Big, expansive, massive, lots of multi-modalities, multi-locations. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to take over the world and rock on. All power to you. And then actually having that realization of going, no thanks. That's actually, It's not really what I want. It's not my jam. This is not bringing me joy. In fact, it's soul sucking. And I speak to so many therapists who have created something with something in mind, but the journey on there has kind of gotten a bit wobbly, and they've maybe taken on more than they can chew, to go, actually, that's not what I want. I really actually just want to have this and to pivot. And I think it takes a lot of humility to do that, because often our ego is like, but I want all the things. And do I just sit down and go, no, you know what? That's not what I want anymore. I actually want to create this in a different way. And I think that's something that I don't think it's talked about. I don't think we have this conversation. I don't remember having a conversation with any of my peers when I was building the clinic and they're wanting to scale back, going, why would you want to scale back? It's like, well, because I want a life. And
There is an expectation that if you go into business for yourself that you want to build a huge, big business. And that's kind of also reinforced by things like marketing people. So, those social media marketers who appear in your inbox or who cold call you saying, I can double your client base in 90 days. And I'm like, well, I don't have the capacity to double my client base. But there's that expectation that you always want to get more clients, for example. And actually, maybe you don't. You actually just want to work smarter, not harder.
Exactly. So for you, how do you find when you find yourself in chaos, whether it's before you transitioned or obviously you transition now, we'll talk about that in a sec. How do you find creative ways out of the chaos?
Oh, it's a tricky one because I've learned to really embrace the chaos, which feels a little bit, self-helpy. But like I've been reading too many self-help. Just embrace the chaos. But actually, I find that what I try and do when I get into those situations is really focus on getting good sleep, good nutrition, and continuing my self-care. So making sure I'm looking after myself, whether it be with exercise or getting my own treatments. Because quite often, sometimes I can't work out exactly what I need to do to get out of that. And so if I can just look after myself, I trust that stuff will fall into place and I'll actually work out how to get out of it. I guess, like, I'm also somebody I'm quite an anxious person, which I've calmed down a lot over the years, but what it results is I kind of ruminate on stuff a lot. So I will often think through things for weeks and months, and I don't actually usually share my thoughts and feelings with people. So when I actually make a decision, I actually end up coming out like, oh, that's a bit left field. Like, I didn't even know that was something that you wanted to do, because I'm quite an internal person. So I like to go through all of the possibilities before making a decision. And so I don't like to vocalize it because I guess I don't really want to put pressure on myself for the judgment of others. Like, when are you going to do that? So, I like to think it all through. So when I'm often in that craziness, it can be hard to make a decision. And what I find is if I look after myself, I tend to get towards the tail end where I can start actually doing a little bit of self-reflection, going, okay, let's look at this less emotionally. Let's just look at what's going on here and work out how I might be able to get myself out of it.
I think sometimes we can and we've spoken about this a number of times on the podcast, but we can wait until the chaos is solved and then take care of us. However, what I hear more and more is the actively, intentionally practicing self-care in the chaos is actually what gets us through.
Yeah.
And often it's in the chaos that we need it more than when we're doing well. Because when we're doing well, it's easy to meditate. It's easy to sit down. It's easy to take good care of yourself. It's when all of a sudden we're really fast-paced or constrained or stressed or under pressure that those things can easily just go, I don't have time for that.
And that can be hard when you're in the chaos to actually commit to that as well, because usually your whole life goes a bit chaotic. So, but I'm not a huge fan of a spreadsheet, but I do love my Google Calendar. So I like to block it in. So if I block in that time for the self-care, I've done it. Like, I don't go for a massage and not book a follow-up appointment, for example, or a chiropractic and don't book a follow-up. Like, I want to know, I don't want to turn up 3 weeks later going, Jesus, I need a massage and I haven't booked one. So I'm kind of organized in that respect. And that's where thank you, Google Calendar, for creating. And it's all colorful because we all know how much I love color. So I can color code everything. And that actually helps me, to get through some of that chaos, because I can structure that. I can control certain things, so I can at least put structure into those and gain a bit of control back until, there's such time that I can actually work out my situation. And the classic was with the property in Wayville that I was renting. I'd done a 3-year and then I did another 3-year lease extension. And at the 3-year mark, I knew that this was not working. But part of me was like, I'm going to try and get this to work. So I committed to another years, I must have needed my head read. But, you know, I don't know. I just find all of that sort of those, if you like, those failures, there are such great learning experiences. Like everybody, like you know, you can tell somebody that, oh no, don't bother trying that. That's not going to work. I'd rather try it. I might know it's probably not going to go well, but there's so much learning to be gained from, okay, well, what did work and how could I have done that differently? Like, I just think there's so much opportunity in failure. Like, I don't think we celebrate that enough.
Yeah, exactly, because that is exactly how we learn. We learn so much from, you know, no such thing as failure, only feedback. Great learning. Well, now you know a way that a massage business doesn't work for an extra 3 years. Cool. You know, chalk up on the board of experience and off we go.
Yeah.
Well, I guess a question I like to ask people is, what does business trauma mean for you?
Yeah, well, if I think back to that time, particularly, because that was full on, that was, to me, it's just that financial, emotional, physical, mental stress, really. You know, it's not being able, not feeling love for your business as well. Like, to me, like it is like a small child, isn't it? It's like part of your family, and it's a representation of you as well. And you know, when things don't go well and the business is falling apart, it's like, oh, you know, it is a reflection of you, and you feel really bad about that, and it's traumatic, and it's not a great place to be in. Like, and you feel like a bit of a failure as well. Like, but I think that it's really important to know that it does happen. Like, be okay with the idea that it is pretty rare for somebody to go through and have a business that runs perfectly all the time. We have peaks and troughs all the time. And certainly COVID taught that for a lot of us. As you know, our industry has many people who are solo practitioners who really struggled over that time. You know, if people don't come through the door, you weren't earning money. And so, I mean, it hit a lot of people really hard. But then, like I said, you know, it always provides an opportunity as well. You know, if you can pull yourself together enough to pull back the curtain and say, okay, yeah, this is pretty shit, but okay, how can I turn this around? Then I think you can step out of it okay.
Yeah. So for you, when you're in the struggle, when you're in that sort of, I say compression because that's the feeling or the sense that I have in my own experience when I've been in a position where there's nothing I can do to fix it. Yeah. Like going and doing 30 massages a week is exhausting and soul-sucking, but if it fixes the problem, I'd probably be inclined to have a crack at that. But knowing that, you know, I call it overfunctioning, putting my overfunctioning pants on and knowing that those overfunctioning pants are not enough to solve it, that's when it can be quite compressing and tricky for me personally. What agreements do you make for yourself when you're in struggle like that?
Well, I kind of touched on it already because I do like to make sure that I look after myself. That's because it's the only thing that I can do. You know, that's the only thing I've got control over. And I think that's the key thing is to, okay, sit down and work out what things can I control and then focus on those. Because, you know, we can't control a whole bunch of things, including how people think and feel about us or our business. We can't necessarily control the environment in which we're working in, which was proven over the last couple of years. You know, find those things that you can have control over, which is usually around your personal life and your the way you take care of yourself. Those things you have control over, and focus on those. And it's like when I'm like doing health coaching with some clients, we talk about, you know, those quick wins. You know, look for those things that are easy for you to make a change on and that make you feel good, and then that can be done quickly. And those are the things that also help to get you out of the struggle, because you see that you can actually be successful at something, even if it's, hey, I got up and I made the bed today. Woohoo! Like, fantastic. Like, sick.
Winning at life.
We all know that making your beds are really important, because the top squillionaires all make their bed in the morning. And I think, unless you get out of bed and if you don't make it, you're just never going to be a millionaire.
That's right. And if it's good enough for them, it is good enough for me.
Exactly.
So Kylie, the clinic was hemorrhaging money.
Yeah.
It was struggling. You were feeling compressed. You'd made the big choice to then step out. Tell us about what your journey has been like over the last couple of years then. How have you transitioned from one great big massive massage-based clinic into what you're doing now? Tell us about
that. So as I mentioned before about my therapist leaving, that was the opportunity to really rejig what it was that I wanted to do. And I decided, right, I was going to go back to being just me. I didn't have to worry about staff. I didn't have to worry about getting more clients for those staff. And I also thought that it was a perfect opportunity to finish my degree off. It took me 8 years to do my nutrition degree. It was a long, hard slog. There was a little bit of a gap in between, but yeah, it was a long, long slog. So I used that to, I really thought about, well, what is it? Who do I want to work with, and what skills do I need to be able to service them? And I'd done a lot of work on my own health post-cancer around nutrition. And that's also in large prevented me from getting advanced lymphedema in my arm, which is something I do have some edema issues following cancer treatment. And what I was learning was, like, people were like, we have a lot of oncology massage and we have lymphatic massage, which are quite often a lot of practitioners tend to work in those two spaces because there's a lot of overlap. But in the nutrition space, like, there were practitioners that were oncology focused, but no one was, I have to this day, haven't really found, I found one practitioner, one nutritionist who actually specializes in lymphedema and lipidemia. And that's fascinating to me, that there's a whole community of people who don't know how to eat well as part of their self-care and management of their lymphedema. And so through this process of the last couple of years, I've worked out, okay, I really want to support those. I've always enjoyed doing lymphatic drainage massage or manual lymphatic drainage. I find it's actually a really mentally challenging bodywork technique to do, because quite often I'm working with people who have compromised lymphatics. So where their things should naturally flow, you don't necessarily want to send things that way. So you actually have to engage your brain a lot more. And that was something that I was missing from doing my general remedial work. I felt like I was on autopilot. So I found that in niching in this space and really we've spoken before about, sharing your story, and how in being comfortable to share my cancer journey, I was actually able to get really comfortable to actually identify my ideal clients more and really clarify who I wanted to work with. And so I used the opportunity over COVID to had already rebranded as Kylie Bradley Health and Lifestyle to incorporate both sides of my, like, the hands-on as well as the nutrition side of my practice. But then it allowed me to take it that next step and say, right, these are the people that I work with, people with lymphatic issues. And I just have so much more, more sense of joy when I go to work, because I feel like I'm actually giving people valuable skills that they can, so I can educate them about how they can be self-caring better. I can obviously treat them, and I can help them with their nutritional advice. And there's such an underrepresented group of people living with lymphedema or at risk of lymphedema. They're not well represented at all. There's no Medicare item number for these people. So they're essentially invisible in the public health system. And so the private system is somewhere that has to pick up the slack. But a lot of these people can't work full time. And so finances are an issue as well. And so there's those challenges as well. But ultimately, the more I can educate my clients, they should actually need me less. So, they can come for treatment or come and see me for a consult for nutrition, and I can provide them with the tools to be able to self-care for themselves for longer periods of time between needing to see me. And that's really satisfying, because it's really, it's important that people learn to look after themselves. They can look after themselves. We innately know how to look after ourselves. We just need to remember how to do it.
I think it's amazing to be able to have a vision, head towards it, decide that's not what you want, pivot, and then go and follow even more of your heartbeat. And in none of that is there massive clinic and lots of people. It is just it is you, and it is the heartbeat of what it is that you have to serve those around you. And it's so beautiful and so enriching for what you're sharing with such a vast audience. Like, yes, they might be unseen, but such a vast audience, and so important for the longevity of the health of these people.
And it's allowed me the changes. Also, I've moved up to the Adelaide Hills here. I'm actually sitting in my new clinic, my home clinic. This is the front section of my new clinic, and we're just putting everything back together now, so ready for May opening, and we've just got a little bit of gardening work to do out so people can safely get here. But part of my vision in getting better work-life balance was to move up here into the Adelaide Hills. I've got a 1,200 square block, so I've got nice trees and I can grow my own food. And then I can treat people in this more intimate space as well. That's, that has on-site car parking, which is, a practical thing people are looking for, that has a toilet here that they can use, because everybody who gets off of the table after lymphatics needs to pee. So, everything is nicely contained here. It's a warming environment that I'm creating so that it's nourishing me as well. It's not stressful for me to go to work and be able to provide service to people, but it's nourishing me as well because I've created a space that I'm comfortable in as well.
Yeah. And I think clients feel that. I think they feel when we are comfortable and safe, they naturally gravitate towards that because they're like, oh, no, this is lovely. I want to go and I'm happy to see Kylie for something that I am perhaps quite nervous about talking about, or because there wouldn't be a lot of language or schema, because their oncologists and other people they've engaged with would not have been talking about their lymph system or lymphatics. And the fact that something can be done is just amazing. Look, I think you're quite good at self-reflection, and you've shared that already. If there was a chance to go back and talk to your younger self, whether it was through a cancer journey, through a business change, or over the last couple of years, what would you change or tell yourself if you had that gift of being able to go back and have a conversation?
What I probably would do differently in business is I would get people around me, other like-minded business people around me as my sounding board and network, that I can, we can chew the fat over the issues, because you can't really do that with your family normally. My dad runs his own business, so he's a little bit different. I can speak to him, but he's in trade, so different industry. But my husband, for example, beautiful man, but he's always been employed. So when you're talking with family, quite often their replies to what you might want to share are actually blinkered or sort of through the lens of someone who is actually loves you, and is like, they're not looking at it from a business. There's too much emotional investment, I guess, they've got in you. They're not able to look at things objectively. And so I would definitely say that early on in your business, make sure you get like-minded business people around you, and get a coach early. Like life actually, you do need a coach. And a lot of people are like, oh, why do I need a coach? There are so many, there are different coaches for different things, and it's okay to have different coaches at different times, because there will be different things that you need in your business. But I think you need those people that, like, colleagues and a coach that you can soundboard stuff off of, that are able to do that objectively without emotion attached to it. And I think that is key, because I think that can help you make maybe different, but certainly better, like hopefully better decisions. They'll definitely be different, but hopefully better decisions in your business, and maybe from more of a objective viewpoint than emotion, because we sometimes get a bit emotional about our decision making as well in our own businesses. So I think having those people that you can speak to is super important, and that would be the thing that I would do differently if I had my time over.
Who do you think you've got to become as a result of what you've experienced?
Well, it's interesting, because my whole, I've been reflecting over the last couple of days, preparing a presentation that I'm doing tomorrow about storytelling. And I was looking at my stories, what is it that where have I come from, essentially? And a lot of my story is marked by ill health. So it's really interesting that, like, you can think of that as being quite negative, but the positive and the upside of that is that actually I've been able to use that to actually help people. So I've been able to use my struggles, my health struggles, and particularly in my business, I use my cancer journey as the to be able to share the knowledge and the tools that I have learned to live a joyful life, to live a relatively healthy, happy life. And I wouldn't have been able to have done that if I hadn't had those experiences. And so I think that at that, plus my interesting journey since 2008 with my business and expanding it and bringing it down again, has really allowed me to hone in and work out who I want to help and be able to help them better, because I've niched my business and I know who I want to help. So I think that is what I've been able to provide the world by actually going through this journey.
And I think our mess often becomes our message. And sometimes our niche, people can get really caught up, my niche, I don't know, it's too hard, it's just like a demographic. Or it's like, honestly, often our niche is us 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. That's who our niche is. Like, just finding what we've experienced, what we've been through, and being able to then help others through and be a bit of a life raft to go, I know, I've been there, come with me, step on there, step on, look, now that's cool, you did it your own way, that's fine. But, like, being there and helping them through that, I think often is that's part of this whole thing, part of this whole podcast is really, what is the messy stuff we've journeyed through, and how can we then use that to help and serve and teach others and bring them along the way with us. I think that's beautiful.
And it helps build rapport and trust with people, because I don't know about you, but that perfect image of, the personal trainer or, the health professional who looks immaculate all the time, it's not the true story. And there's a lot of messy and all that. And actually people really resonate with you sharing that, your life has not gone quite to plan, and you don't always make the best nutritional choices. You don't always do your self-care, but as long as you show that you're real and vulnerable, and that you can be vulnerable, then people are really drawn to that as well. And it also makes them feel okay as well. Like, they're not like, I think there's this idea of perfection that we all have to adhere to, and it doesn't exist.
Not at all. Not at all. Kylie, thank you so much for your sharing your wisdom with us today. I really appreciate you being so willing to share your story, both of your health journey and also your business journey. It's kind of like the unspoken of things that I just think are so important that therapists hear, regardless of whatever stage you're at in business, to know that it's okay to expand massively and it's okay to scale back as well, and that there's always opportunities for learning and growth in both ends. Thank you so much for today.
You're welcome. Thank you.